cooperated together, we could probably better those advances in technology. But I think that at the end of the day, though, there's still like, I mean, I think there's a capitalist definition of work, but there's also, you know, like I enjoy doing things, you know, that other people might call work. You know, and you know, yeah, there's a sense of also like, you know, of pride in helping your community. Like, you know, I've been doing some cleaning lately. There's a lot of laundry today, and like, you know, but that for my collective. And you know, that gives me a kind of a, you know, it's not like the most like fun in the world, but it is, you know, it does like there's still like a sense of like, I think pride in whatever work that you do, and I don't think there should be this hierarchy of like, oh, you know, there's, you know, like a one type of work is like menial or like more degrading. I think there is value to all sorts of work, and I think we should appreciate that. While you know, while I agree we should use automation and the fact that we have all this technology to our best advantage, while also considering the fact that like, you know, pollution, you know, how it affects the environment, and you know, while I don't necessarily subscribe to like criticism, yeah. We're going, you know, going back to like, you know, sort of our like more primitive roots of living. I think that there, you know, we need to like work more with our environment and ensure that we're not, you know, continuing to harm our environment with things that we're doing. I think that, you know, having like a car, for example, like I don't think everyone should have a car because having a car doesn't encourage. I think that we should try to, you know, have like, you know, bicycles, buses, or something, and you know, like there's also, I think we also need to start building those alternatives. And you know, I do believe. I mean, I think there is also like, I think there's a contrary abundance because you know, again, yeah, a lot of these things that like there's a lot of is made in other countries and we don't get the burden. And like, you know, once we dismantle the whole capitalist system, we're not going to be getting things from China anymore in sort of like same way because China, you know, probably not exist anymore as China, post-revolutionary like world. And so we would have to like, you know, start. But I think the very beginning though, like I think, especially here in the United States, like we would have a lot of like we would have a lot of things. I mean, like look at the department stores. Like there's so many clothes in there. Everything goes to so much food, and so I think there could be a temporary like abundance of things, but after that, yeah, I think we have to figure out how to like, you know, how to sustain ourselves in a way that, yeah.
Okay, so we have next.
You covered a lot of things.
I'll put myself on the back.
You covered a lot of things. So, first off, you covered machines breaking down and that being a problem. The reason machines break down is because of planned obsolescence. Businesses need to plan their machines in order to break. They need to make their machine break. Otherwise, if they wanted to make a computer that's the Samsung, they would make the chip the same size. So you can replace the same chip with the next computer. But they make the chip a different size, so you have to buy another computer. They make things obsolete in order. Apple does this too. Every company does this. Every company has to do this in order to participate in the economic system. But also, every business has cost efficiency problems. We need to take cost efficiency into account in every production. This isn't cost efficiency with resources, but cost efficiency with money. Okay, so if you're taking cost efficiency into account at every stage of production and you're using planned obsolescence, then you're not going to be producing the best products and they're going to be designed to break. And that was planned obsolescence and that. And then you also want a technically literate society, and you need to have machines that repair machines. We already see the full automation of the automobile. No one works on the automobile. You press a button now. And we see this with almost anything. We can build a house. It's called contour craft. You press a button, design the house, you download someone else's designs, and that's that. So that's in regards to that whole machine thing. You brought up the environment. There is no way to solve the environmental degradation of the past 100 years without high-tech technology being used in the right way. And like for example, how do you clean the ocean? What we need to do is build an underwater city with the best glass, and you have scuba divers planting trees all over the ocean, restoring the reef, creating 10 times as much of the ocean life. How are we going to restore the planet? We need to use technology in a humanistic way. How are we going to get free energy? Geothermal energy. That's unlimited energy. Geothermal alone. And there's solar, wave, wind, tidal energy, and hemp energy. There's uber abundance. And then in regards to what you said about us getting a lot of our things from China real quick, this is the last real major point. What you said about getting all of our things from China or other places, what you do is you legalize hemp. You grow hemp in hydroponic vertical towers. Hemp has over 50,000 industrial products. 50,000. That's 50,000 products as free as air if we just grow hydroponically and vertically because we have miles and miles of space. So the truth is, we do have an abundance without needing to rely on these other countries. And here's another funny thing. We have to rely on the Himalayas for goji berries. If you're a raw vegan, I'm sure you know about goji berries. They're super healthy. If you want to get the best food, you have to rely on all these cultures and steal their foods, right? Well, how about we just emulate the culture, or emulate the climate right here, where you emulate the climate necessary for goji berries and all the other superfoods that you have to buy in other places. That's a way you stop all of the getting from other places. So you localize production as much as possible. You have uber abundance of resources in regards to every need and almost every war. The fraction one goes to war.
Okay, so we have LA, I know myself, and then I saw
You got it right?
Want to go first?
No, I don't want to go first if it isn't my turn. No, no, really. I mean, I just want to make sure that he knows that you got the people right.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to write on a corn leaf so that I would let my young brother know that you have spoken so much in praise of technology, but you've not spoken about the downside. I have not heard you say anything about downside of technology. You've not spoken about the power of community, of people just collectivizing and doing this. You say we can regenerate ocean life by machine. I will be grateful of that proposal because I know that ocean has the natural ability, if you stop polluting it, to regenerate its own life. There are some simple plants that can regenerate ocean life on their own. I am not sure that you have ever looked into how some tribes live. I use tribes with pride. I do not use it with the fear of the idea that it is attached to primitivism. Because you keep on talking of the hydroponics. Hydroponics. Are we going to need some skyscrapers in order to have hydroponics? Are we going to create them in the air? People argue today that the efficiency of technology is the way to go. The same argument those who are talking about tracking you, that you just put that machine deep into the womb of Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and just hold the gas. So this whole idea of technology, when I look at when I look at some systems that anarchists are proposing, I will never forget the day where a young comrade, Shaima, people were making all kinds of proposals, and she said she wanted to form a committee to do dumpster diving in order to collect food that was being wasted. Lots of food is wasted. Young brother, let us walk downtown to where they sell, where they do wholesale food in LA later in the evening, and you will see boxes and boxes of food without the hydroponics yet.
Yeah.
I am sure that there's a lot that can be said, but sustainability of the environment, I do not want to leave it to the idea of just technology alone. And for me, any model of economy that we are coming up with must take into consideration how people used to live without necessarily going back into primitivism. Take the best of those systems, find how we can sustain life, how we can sustain our ecology, and adapt the best of technology that we need, but not to go full dive just thinking of technology and hydroponics alone.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I sort of wanted to get back on track as to like how like the economics and like how those relate to the specific types of anarchism, and I wanted to talk about anarcho-communism a little bit, and also like anarcho-syndicalism. So anarchist communism is bringing the idea of communal resources to communism, right? With this idea of anti-Deist, anti-capitalist, right? You bring those two together. And so the idea, or the way an economy would essentially function in that extent would be every resource, including land, would be collectivized. It would be the property of the people, and there wouldn't be this idea of property, right? And so you would be contributing according to your ability, what you're able to do, what skills you have, and what you wish to learn, etc. And you would be receiving what you need, whatever it is you need, because all the products that come out of it would be communal, right? And so there would be this sort of coordination body, right? That would be basically people, the tool of the people or distributing, how how the resources are distributed. That would sort of be their that role, right? And so you can see ideas of this in like the Spanish Civil War, like in Aragon, right, which is a rural area, and they practiced mostly anarchist communism, right, where everyone participated in what they could and got what they needed because everything was collectivized. They took down all the fences. There was no private property, all that kind of stuff. So that's specifically anarchist communism. Anarchist syndicalism was most it's like in Barcelona during the Spanish Civil War. That's like the big anarchist syndicalist sort of like example, right? Or that I know anyway. And so the idea there is that the workers come together in unions, right? And the unions federate and confederate on top of that to distribute the resources, right? And so you're still going to work in your factory or whatever it is you do, but whatever comes out gets distributed through the confederation, and it also communized. So those products can be distributed to everybody within that area. So those are two specifically anarchist communism, anarcho-syndicalism, specific strains of anarchism, how they relate to the economy that they would want to create.
We have a direct response from
I just wanted to say that anarcho-syndicalism, as they tried it and as it has been anarcho-syndicalism as it has been idealized and as it has and it was practiced in Spain, it wasn't just workers. They thought that every class of society can have their own syndicates and they could come together, and those syndicates could choose delegates to go to other delegation and represent their own syndication.
I need to ask a clarifying question to anybody here because I'm finding myself. Sorry, I think we're all forgetting how far away we are. I'm just asking this purely because I'm getting a little confused on one end. One common perspective seems to be the notion of autonomy and against the concept of a state. But I've heard a lot of comments stigmatizing anything we bring in from another country. And while I agree, obviously, that we want to stay local and provide for our local communities, where's the breakdown? What makes a state border or a neighborhood border any different than a country line? If you, I just clarify.
Can I want to give a direct answer to this, but I'm supposed to be in start. Yes, I have a direct response.
Well, I just feel like I need to understand this so I'll be able to understand the rest of the comments that are being made.
Okay, do you want to directly respond?
Sure. Sure. First of all, I agree with you. There's been a lot of stuff being said about other countries, which reminds me of people still thinking with what we call backward national backward reactionary nationalism, which we have to be careful. It's like we better than other countries, and that's what I call backward reactionary nationalism. Supposedly we're supposed to be internationalists, globally, the 99%, all of us together. So yeah, that's part of being under the capitalist system that teaches you just because you inside of the most powerful capitalist country that you better than everyone else, or that you're supposed to have the answer for whatever it is out there. Also, there's one reminder too that most of the technology that we have, the military and the 1% have been the one that have used and benefited out of that, which they don't think of any ways when they come up with different technologies. They don't think of how to get rid of the waste because they don't care about us. They just want to produce what they need to produce in order to exploit us. So that's my answer. Somehow.
That is your director's fund. Oh, and do you also have a director's?
I would say that my conception of the future revolution is that machines be part of the revolution, that the world revolution is possible because they are the present. We're basically the country that sucks up the resources from the planet, right? So if China, for example, doesn't go woke, that's the same thing we're spreading this illusion of a real middle class society. We believe that it's out there, it's being mapped, and we believe that it is upon the Western system how we want to organize ourselves. But something such as the internet can operate on the same capitalism strategy. So I would say that anarchism is like inherent in that it disempowers these capitalist ties that tie human countries together, and just by virtue of one working class sitting there rising up, no stopping action is taken by the stockist caretaker, then that revolution always will be revolution always leads. Revolution leads like leads. There's no era. Leads. Oh, okay. Oh, revolution leads over into other countries. So like every revolutionary movement has been partnered with like multiple revolutionary movements.
I'm not sure if we simply, the simple direct way to answer the question, or maybe we did, but I'm going to take a shot at it. And it's always, definitions always have oversimplification as part of it. But if a state has a border, has passports, protected by a military, has a hierarchical system with prisons and a secret police and propaganda and education, and like all of that. If LA were to become a liberated commune, like Paris did in 1972 or something like that, or Barcelona in 56, you wouldn't have a secret police going around checking your papers, and you wouldn't be able to be expelled if you wanted to come in and peacefully live and cooperate with people. You know what I'm saying? So there might be pride in being a part of that commune, or there might be a contiguous geographical region represented. You wouldn't have a militarized border. You have an army. You might have a self-defensive militia for in case we get invaded by the inevitable capitalist counter-reaction, right? But we wouldn't have conscription. We wouldn't have prisons. We wouldn't have a legislature.
Alright, well, kind of to just kind of go back to like resource-based economy, like some people are saying, well, what if there is scarcity? Well, I say, alright, say there is. Let's just say that is the case. I don't think it is true, but sorry. If there is scarcity, I think we still need a resource-based economy because to measure something else rather than the resources we have, such as hallucination that many people call money, would be completely irrelevant. That wouldn't do us any good to say, we do have scarcity, we don't have enough for anyone. To say, well, let's try to like distribute this money, and then from that then we'll distribute the resources. That would make sense. Another thing I want to mention is, Dylan, you were saying that like he wasn't talking about like social, like anything social to do with like anti-scarcity based philosophy. Well, I would say as for social things, it's total autonomy, meaning that like say you don't want to participate in this resource-based economy, you absolutely don't have to. There's no force, there's no military. It's all very autonomous. Meaning that if you don't like say we set up this self-sustaining city where there is automated labor, if someone does have the choice to say, I don't want to live here, I want to live over there, I want to work, or I say I do want to live right here, but I don't want to participate in your system, and I do want to work
young brother, what you missed the larger point I was making is that I say there's danger in the over celebration of technology. And two, that as at now, those who are leading in the so-called manufacturing of these machines that the young brother is proposing are all part of the 1%. So if we do not alter the means of production of this technology that they are talking of, I think we are preparing ourselves for danger. Thirdly, my own idea is that whatever system we are adopting must look into how we're going to sustain the environment. Otherwise, all these ideas we are talking of are not going to come through without, and I think, therefore, technology, but also an emphasis on, somebody said, taking the resource from a communist setting. I would say taking resources from communal setting. Of course, I'm talking as somebody who comes from a village, that we must not dump that idea of something that has to do with community. No, we should not totally abandon that sphere, because maybe that is one area where we have the greatest illiteracy in most parts of the Western Hemisphere, that they have no understanding of what it means to talk about community. And then about borders that they are talking about, yes, I think geographic borders is one. But I also think we have an opportunity as an Occupy movement worldwide today to also talk about a psychological border. We have Occupy movement in almost about 300 or 500 cities functioning today under the umbrella of the Occupy movement. Went to Hill Square, spent money to our friends who were in Wisconsin to buy pizza. They were not dealing with a boundary that has to do with geography. They were dealing with a political psychology. And I think we can also use that as we transit in the course of revolution.
Tom, next time back, and then
I just wanted to add something like I know that we were bringing a lot up the Spanish Civil War. For those that don't know, the Spanish Civil War took place in the mid 1930s, and it was the Spanish Republic was under attack against Franco led a coup d'état against the Spanish Republic. But one thing I wanted to add that was interesting about that, when they did start the process of collectivizing the communities in the fields and in the industries, one thing that they did to, and I think that was interesting, I think it allowed the process to run more efficiently, was they had workers that went out and collected data, because it's like, if you have your commune, and you're growing bananas, you can't just live off of bananas. You have to trade or barter with another collective network. And so that's part of the process of creating those networks, is sending workers out to collect data, like, Pancho got bananas, Pepe got apples or whatever, let's trade, let's build relationships, and I thought that was interesting, and that could lead to some form of a different type of market system type. I've encountered other anarchist groups and I'm not really clear about their position, but they go by market anarchists, and they're based out of Las Vegas, and I've seen them at the anarchist book fair before, and I've read some of their literature, and it sounds interesting. There's some things that I agree with, some things I don't necessarily, but it'd be interesting to look deeper into that and kind of formulate some things, some ideas on that, and how can we, if there are groups that want to start projects on collectivizing in neighborhoods and communities, then how, after we do that, how do we start building networks where we work together in either trading, if you have a group of doctors that can provide a service, or a group of, plumbers, electricians, and then creating those networks, we have to have some sort of channels of communication so that we know we exist, so that we know we're able to trade our skills and services, and so that's what I wanted to contribute to.
Carol has a direct response yeah, I just, interesting that you brought that up, because, like, I really, I think that trading can also kind of lead down to, like, a slippery slope, towards back to, like, capitalism and the creation of, like, a money system. And I think, I don't know, I don't think I've, like, necessarily, like, been like, oh, like, all trade is bad, we should trade it all.
anarchist communism, or defines communism as Marx is saying. And so I wonder if anybody had any input on that and on how the society might look, knowing that everybody's going to get what they need. How do you deal with things like that?
Direct responses.
Yeah. Oh, I think Marx is actually pretty clear about it. If you look at some of his writings outside of his strictly economic ones. Way too economical. That we acknowledge. Oh, sorry. I said I think Marx is pretty clear about the fact that when we say we, we're not really talking about existence and subsistence. We're talking about spiritual and emotional and other kinds of issues. And the reason why I say that is Marx clearly talks about, explicitly talks about a situation where the owner's house keeps getting larger, and even though you have a larger house than you used to have, you're going to get jealous of the owner. You're going to feel like we have a society that produces mansions, and I still live in a house that's a lot smaller than that mansion. Why is he better than me? Why does he deserve a mansion and a pool, and I deserve just a little apartment? Even though a little apartment is significantly better than what people lived in 200 or 300 years ago. So Marx does acknowledge there's a spiritual need and spiritual and emotional component over and above just physical subsistence.
Say when you look at psychology and things, how much we're affected by our environment, the environmental stimuli that is combined with our genetics to give us our values. When you look at that, you realize a lot of the things that people would consider wants are actually artificial wants, really engineered by a hierarchical, spiritually-based society. Business, for example, kids are marketed to from like 3 years old upwards. They're just put in front of a television and they're told to buy a bunch of things. So that's the way you create a bunch of these artificial wants. And then you have that whole Madison Avenue culture, and all the commercials are designed to make you feel insignificant, like you need something. So there's a lot of artificial wants, man. Somebody can say, oh, I want North America as my backyard. Is that a real want, or is at this point this person a victim of a very strange, disgusting society?
Yeah, I feel as far as like we were talking about different economic systems, as far as like when it comes to anarcho-syndicalism or anarcho-communism, I feel that the graduate of that would be like post-scarcity anarchism, just because like how would you get to post-scarcity anarchism without like what is the definitive like model of like without collectivizing like but as far as like I think it was her question regarding why we're talking about other countries and not not really wanting resources and things like that. It's like it is like inherently a kind of it's this idea that like the state provides nations and borders, and like reasons they do that is to privatize certain land, and it's like that's not that's coercive, and it's not part of like articulating like anything involving it. But I was gonna your question earlier, and like how involving like the Occupy movement, and it's just the reason why so many anarchists came out to the Occupy movement is because it was based off of a lot of like anarchist principles. When it comes to horizontalism, it's like a living force, and like I think when I'll come back to that.
basically, whoever my friend is fucking genius. And yeah, I mean, like, I don't know who that guy is, but like, basically all the functions that happen in Craigslist, we happen to completely replace the government, the market,
It's just Craigslist because like all these ticket vendors will buy off all of the tickets from concerts and sell them to like 3, 4, 6 private conferences. So they're exploiting the system to like
we would have to
He wants to hear you.
Yes, please. Can you
Emma.
repeat that
I
again?
was just saying like how there's people on Craigslist that like for concert tickets, like there's ticket vendors who buy like loads of tickets and then they end up selling it on Craigslist for like 3, 4 times the regular amount to try to make money off of that. So they're taking advantage of the system. So like unless we can build a system that like excludes that type of deals like to begin with, I don't think that's very good.
Exactly. Thank you.
We have a few direct responses. Do we want to? It seems to be like a different topic of discussion. Do we want to start this and then move on to closing this deck possibly, or do we have more like topics of discussion that we want to like?
This may be a meeting on when we want to reconvene in a week.
Right. I agree.
Next time, can we get direct responses? Like,
Yeah,
like
sure.
we had before?
We can straw poll, people want to reconvene, people vote.
Well, we also have like 2 more people
Well, I
on
mean,
staff
how many
after
people want to
that.
respond to like Alex?
But then just finish
There's
those
like
two.
at least
Finish
4
those two,
direct
and then we
responses.
discuss it. Just finish with those two, and then we
Okay,
start.
so
Allow
just
those
finish
two.
the stack and then go back to your
Yes.
house.
Whatever.
I'm getting sleepy.
Okay.
I want to eat.
Ed, you're next.
Absolutely, well, 2 things. The first thing is there's been questions around. You brought up the question of printing freezer, needing printing freezer ability, and Emma brought up how people can come in and manipulate the system. And I kind of wanted to play this comment off of what Phil was saying, that we in this society have been so psychologically abused and damaged that we don't. In society, people identify each other by how much crap they have as opposed to who they really are, how we treat one another, and all that kind of thing. But I really do think that this kind of a conversation and what you're talking about could go ahead and blossom into something that could consume an hour or something. And in that regard, when I really originally raised my hand, what I was going to say is I'm hearing an awful lot of energy from this space right now. I am a member of Occupy LA Freedom School. Would like to point out that we won't be doing any classes next week. We're going to be over at the Word March or whatever it is. But that I'm wondering if we would all like it. This would be up to Carol and Emma, and would we like to come back here 2 weeks from today and do another big discussion? I know I certainly would.
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan was to have like a series of these classes. And have to do like every Sunday at 2 p.m. Like somebody gets on next Sunday because we have an action. But yeah, yeah. So the next class is gonna be like anarchy kind of in action. We're gonna talk about like real life and like kind of autonomous, like the creation of autonomous zones, like Paris Commune, and like other examples. And like, people should feel free to like bring whatever you know about it to the discussion. And yeah, so that was gonna be the one 2 weeks from today.
Tuesday, 3 o'clock?
Yeah, 3 o'clock. Yeah.
Well, I just want to put up 2 weeks from today is running down the walls at our
What's that?
We're running down the walls back in the CF event.
Running down the wall.
That's 2 weeks ago.
It's on September 2nd. You said something to think about. Having an anarchist event takes people away from another anarchist event might not be a good idea.
Can we maybe, can I suggest that like after we're done with this, we form a working group of everyone who wants to sort of like help organize the temporary autonomous zone workshop, and then we can figure out a day and then like coordinate on like agendas, like all this kind of stuff. Maybe do that at the end after we only have
that if you want to stay in this discussion, the topic is economic alternatives. How? How do we get there?
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think that like the first step really is just to organize. I mean, I think we're very disorganized, especially here in the United States. In that there's not really a lot of, we're not really all connected together in communities. So I think the first step is really to start talking to people within your communities, whether it's people in your workplaces or whether it's people just, in your neighborhoods. And I think that a lot of people here don't really necessarily like identify as strongly with being a worker anymore. And I think that I think that's not true necessarily in all professions, but I think it is very much true. Like people very much in these very fragmented, like temporary jobs where they're not necessarily like it's not like we're not in this industrial age like back in the 1800s when Marx was theorizing about all of this. And I think that's so I think there's something to be said about organizing also along like the very marginalized people, which are people who are houseless, who are unemployed, and especially youth. I think these are the people that we really need to start talking to. Like one of the things that we'd love to have more of these teachers kind of also at schools, because there's going to be a lot of youth that are going to be coming out, and there's not actually not a lot of jobs out there right now. At least not like jobs that people are going to feel fulfilled in doing. Which I think is also another thing that's different from back when people worked in factories, because like from what I've learned about or what I've heard from people working in factories, there was a certain pride in working in a factory and producing something, which I think is kind of missing from a lot of these like more service oriented jobs, which is where here the majority of jobs in America are all service jobs. But yeah, I mean, I think the key is first to organize people, talk about these things, and also like starting to like create these alternative ways. Whether it's like starting a community garden with your neighborhood and using that as a way to talk to your neighbors. Having a freedom school. Teaching your neighbors in your community, and not using sort of like the current like state apparatus, or even any of the capitalism thing. I think we need to like move towards like disconnecting away from capitalism. If anything,
Don't put your
like,
money
the
in the
system
bank.
only really works because everyone participates in it. I think the more and more we like get into the collective like mind, collective consciousness that we need to stop participating. I think that's like we need to start getting to that. And I think as unemployment rises, I
Make
think that's
collectives
gonna
internet people.
I think that's gonna start happening naturally. If you look at a lot of these countries that are actually right now in much more of a rebellion like Greece or Spain, like their unemployment is really high. Like among the youth, it's
And
like
while you're at it,
should be
make a
45%.
revolution.
Like it's huge. Like most of the youth in Spain don't they don't have jobs, and I think you're getting to that point.
Anything else?
But there's still a lot of people that are caught up in this capitalist machine by having a job. And so I think for me, I think I've had like discussions about this. And I think it's also debatable whether you want to organize people to continue in the workplace or whether you want to organize people to actually get out of the workplaces, and to stop and actually create the create unemployment.
Organize people, but remember that you can't organize the homeless because they're the unorganizable.
I need to go. I just want to. If I leave that here, can just I don't want to take it away, but just
We'll clean it up.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing it.
Did you have email? Contact? Your email, please. Matt.
Contact info so we can let you know.
Organize the people, but do not organize the unorganizable. And they're the homeless. I love all human beings. I love people. I hate capitalists. I generally love all human beings.
Progressive.
But I'm also conscious of the facts that I have no ability to organize the homeless.
That's why it's important to have peers, because I believe that she can speak to people that maybe have never had jobs before, and we're going to teach them how to start anew. But a lot of disgruntled people in this country, they don't want to hear about a guard. They want to hear about what happened to my job. So we want to be able to make sure we touch each and every population of people so that we're adequately able to help. A 19-year-old, a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old can better understand
talking to you.
decent house with that. There's 5 deep in there, put me in there too, because I don't have nowhere to stay. And let's go to your job. And if your job is calling back to my country, there's a problem here. And we have to do it that way. If it's
Hey,
transitional,
they're talking
it's
to you.
stay. And this is important because it's still an election year. What we're doing right now, we're doing a lot of things to start things new, which is important, but we also got to deal with what's already going on. And it's still an election year, and it's unfortunate people don't have the answers, but I believe this group does have answers. I believe we have real, concrete solutions to the problems.
We absolutely need a revolution. I do agree.
So that other people can start to dialogue on some of these things. And some of it is going to be radical. If you have to go over there and say, where is my job? You know what I mean? Where is it? Can I have it back, please? Because my family's not eating. I think some people just don't understand that. But you know what I mean? So you have to make sure that you have like other alternatives because there are jobs out there that just currently being taken by you understand the machine, and we're all in this machine. You know what I mean? I think that if we have smaller groups of people, perhaps, you know what I mean, we'll be able to hash out some stuff. Because if we're, at the end of the day, the decision makers in this deal, then we're the decision makers in this deal. And if we're the ones that can move this country along, then I think we should be the ones that move this country along. Because maybe we're the only ones meeting in this country right now. Maybe everybody else is giving up. So, that's my part.
Fuyan and then Zoe.
I just wanted to respond to Alex.
Why are you holding this? Give it back.
It's okay. I just wanted to say that the only way to do what we want to achieve is to make the revolution. And I think when I hear when I people who say that they're anarchists but they don't believe in revolution, it's kind of a contradiction in term to me. And I think the only way to achieve the society we want to is to make a revolution. It's great to have, experiments in under the capitalist society, but it's a delusion to say that we would be able to uh, to do it without transforming the whole society. Uh, and the way to do it, I believe, is to go to different communities, to reach to people, to understand their problems, because sometimes we might think that we do understand our problems, but we really need to go on the ground and reach people. There is a certain extent that you could do it on social media, because a lot of people are not still on the Facebook. And we need to, after we understand and realize their problem, we need to organize them, uh, and do propaganda the same way that maybe the capitalist system do it, because we need to have some sort of relation with these people to create class consciousness. And if there is no class consciousness, people may know what the problem is, but until they're not exactly conscious of the level of the belief that functions in a capitalist society, we won't be able to make a revolution.
Zoe and then Michael.
I think whatever we are looking at, there should be a kind of balance. I am hoping that there will be this kind of circle where we are going to be looking at economic alternatives, but with regard to environmental sustainability, so that we can not just look at everything at once. We may not be able to come out clearly, not maybe a little more specific as by each of the freedom school session that you want to do, and then we take the next and we take the next. I would definitely want to see us walk along that way. Two, I think it would be a crime against humanity if we allow the energy that the Occupy movement has generated worldwide not to be put to proper use. I want to see Occupy villages. I call them villages because I have been in two major encampments. One in which I was more directly involved, the South Central Farm, which every day catered for about 500 people and nobody went hungry. Somehow we had enough food from the farm and from donations. Every day I was an outreach coordinator, and I knew that nobody was on South Central Farm who was hungry. and that at the same time, from people who were involved in climate studies, they said the underground water around the South Central Farm was the cleanest during the period that that farm was there, and that the weather around the South Central Farm was the coolest during the period that that farm was in operation. So I want to see the Occupy movement around the world, beginning with Occupy LA, to stand together despite the attempt by people to implode Occupy LA from within and by the enemies of Occupy LA externally. I hope we can stand together and make sure that this experiment in what I call the Garden of Humanity survives and succeeds.
Michael and then Carol.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of wanted to, I know also, like, there's kind of two schools of thought around anarchy, or like evolution versus revolution. And I wasn't trying, and I don't, I don't believe, I think we do need a social revolution. I think you're absolutely right. I think we need a complete overhaul. I don't think, like, we're going to evolve out of capitalism, but what I think creating a lot of these alternatives does is also create, like, state repression, which is what creates the revolutionary situation. Because once people start forming actual economies, like if we like actually liberated